Good to be with you guys tonight. I am going to talk about this lesson, but just before I do, I want to just reinforce what was just said. This is a schedule for step study. So about 5 years ago, I was on staff at this church, I was told, Ron, you are responsible for the Celebrate Recovery program. Don't mess it up. That was my commissioning. So when I started doing it, Jonathan and Janet said, you need to do the step studies in order to know what we do in step study. And I said to them, okay, but in my head was, I don't need to do step studies. I don't have issues. Everybody else has issues. But I signed up and I did step studies, and wow, when you start peeling the onion back, you realize that there's some stuff in there that you haven't dealt with. I happened this afternoon, I was at a 1-year-old birthday party just before I got here, so I am full of sugar. Just want you to all know that. And at that birthday party, I met a person I'd never met before who was a firefighter for 30 plus years in the town of Roseville in California. And I said, you must have seen an amazing amount of things happen. And he said, yes. I said, did it ever affect you? He said, not till I retired. And he is now in therapy for things that happened to him years ago or things that he saw years ago. So it is real that when stuff happens to us, we have to process it. We're either going to process it now or we're going to process it later. So I processed some of that stuff later in step study, and am I ever grateful I did. So if you've got some spare Wednesday nights, sign up for this thing. There's no cost, right? There's no cost. The church provides it, or is there a cost?
There might be a nominal fee.
To buy your books and things? Okay, awesome. I really encourage you to do that. As you know, I retired a number of years ago, and I still come out on Monday nights for 6 months of the year because I love being here. I love this program. So tonight, we got our second last teaching of the whole year's worth of teaching. It's called Saying Yes to God. And there's two purposes that we want to say yes to God. Two purposes. I'll just tell you right now, you can stop listening after this. You can go, I've told you everything right up front. First reason we say yes to God is to prevent ourselves from relapsing, from going back into that hole where we were dealing with the divorce that went sour. We were dealing with the lack of love from a parent. We were dealing with the addiction or the affliction. If we don't stay current, we'll fall back. And a lot of people, they come through a program, and I see some ladies doing their head nodding, and I know you do a 1-year program, and I've known many ladies before you. Teen Challenge is what I'm talking about. And they have a success rate of about 73%. What does that mean? 27% fall back. So tonight we want to talk about not falling back. Second thing that we want to talk about, why we want to say yes to God, is because when somebody sees us who was once in a bad place, with a bad story, when they see us as victors, when they see us as successful, when they see us as overcomers, they're going to go, oh, how'd you do that? And then we can share with them. Does that make sense? So that's what I'm going to talk about. If you need to nap for the next 30 minutes, feel free to do that. If you want to listen, go ahead. Step 12. 12 steps in our recovery program. Step 12 says, this is the last step. We've done all the work. Having had a spiritual experience as a result of these steps, we try to carry this message. What message is that? The message of recovery, of healing, of real love to others, and to practice the principles that we learned here in all of our affairs. And the scripture that goes along with that is that wonderful one from Galatians 6, a warning to us. Brothers and sisters, if someone is caught in a sin, you who live by the Spirit should restore them gently, not like, why do you keep failing? You come along and you restore them gently. But watch yourselves, or you might also be tempted. Galatians 6:1. Have you ever noticed that more so now, society loves watching people fail. In fact, they put their failures up on YouTube, they put them on television, and they love to keep people down. They want to keep people down. They don't want to lift them up. They want to pile on people that have made mistakes. They don't want them to forget about it. They don't want them to overcome it. They want to remind them. Maybe you have some people in your life that you want to overcome, and they keep reminding you of your failures. Anybody? Anybody? Bueller? Yes, some of us have heard this before, right? Right? People are coming to believe that pain is useless and beyond redemption. They're starting to think that Those of us that have dealt with pain and done dumb things in our life that we're sorry for, we're disposable. We can be tossed out. We can be kicked to the side. Get out of the way, let somebody that knows what they're doing do it. And I want to tell you, they could not be more wrong. And you guys are a testament to that. Here at Cedarview Choose Recovery, we know firsthand that pain has value because many of us have felt it, recovered, and we've moved on to a much better place. We started here, we goofed up, but you know where we are now? Way ahead of where we were. Because we didn't accept the pain, we recycled the pain. Our good friend Peter, who I love seeing sing tonight, he has a phrase I hear him often say. You guys know what he says? God never wastes a hurt. God never wastes a hurt. Now, if you haven't heard that before, you might think, that sounds weird. If you know the book of James, you know the book of James says, consider it joy, my brothers and sisters. What? When you face trials. Not if you face trials, when you face trials. Oh, so the brother or sister should expect trials. So if God says you should expect trials, there must be value in trials. Yeah, but trials always bring me pain. Logically, then, there's power, there's growth, there's development in pain. It's very logical. So God never wastes a hurt, absolutely. The world tells us to say no to pain and using pain in any positive way. And I say to you tonight that we can use pain in a very, very positive way. Just like recycling, you know. Many years ago when I was young, everything went into the garbage. Everything went into the garbage. And where did the garbage go? Went into a big landfill. And we were just taking all this stuff and putting it in the landfill. And then people said, you know, we can use some of these materials again. We can recycle them. We can take that old, now the containers of Jonathan's age, when you went to, you take a can of Coca-Cola, you didn't just go clink and it collapsed. It was solid. And they realized, you know, we can recycle this stuff. So now, and as you know, unless you've been under a rock for 20 years, you know we recycle everything except for our pain. Why is that? Personal opinion, males more than females tend to go, I'm in a bad place. Guess I'm going to be here the rest of my life. This is kind of the way we're wired, I think. Ladies tend to go more, I'm in a bad place. I probably should do something about it. In both cases, we can be like that tin can from before. We can be used again in a much better way. That's what it's about. That's what saying yes to God is about. Recycling the previous pain into useful power. So how do we do that? What are the steps? I bet you if we put up a documentary on recycling here, it would be pretty long and it would be pretty complex. Taking the materials, breaking them down, cleaning them. Like, does anybody else think about that? When you're putting a dirty thing in the recycle, going, I hope they clean that before it goes back into something else. It's a complicated process, right? For us, it isn't. It's say yes to God. When God calls you, say yes. When God says, hey, let's do something, say yes. When God says, go speak to that person, say yes. Yeah, but Ron, you don't know what it's like to talk to a bunch of people you don't know. You ever pastored before? You know, part of it is our insecurity in ourselves. But I'm going to talk tonight about 3 different things that we can do. 3 simple steps that we can do to recycle our pain and put it into power. First thing is yield myself to God. Yield myself to God. Say, yes, God, whatever you want to do. Number 2 is demonstrate to others what is important. And 3 is serve others as Jesus served us. So let's look at these 3 quick steps. Step number 1, what do I mean by yield myself to God? Well, to truly practice this principle, we have to give God the latitude that he needs to use us as he sees fit. To which everybody says 90% amen. There's 10% I don't want him to touch. This is my little spot. I'll give him everything else, but this is my little spot. Sorry, guys. That's not yielding yourself. That's protecting yourself. That's covering yourself. That's lying to yourself. When God says, Ron, I want to use you, We don't have a choice of saying, okay, well, use me only in what I feel comfortable with. Don't use me in what I don't feel comfortable with. Use me only in what I want to do. Don't use me in what I don't want to do. We have to present to God everything we have, every single part, not just that we feel good with. No holding back. Holding back should be your old way of thinking. It should be your old. We saw 2 one-year chips tonight. A year ago's thinking is what should be don't yield to God. A year into your recovery, you should be saying, I'm yielding every part of myself to God. We should always hold loosely to that which we call our own. I do a lot of funerals. Pastor Jonathan has done some funerals this past year too. Jonathan, have you ever seen anybody take anything with them? Nothing. We don't. It's all left to everybody else. We take nothing with us. So really, we come into the world, we leave the world, we bring nothing in, we take nothing out. So therefore, logically speaking, everything we have is temporal. It's just for the time being. So therefore, really, it's not mine. Are you kidding? You know how hard I worked for that? Okay, that's one way to look at it. How about God blessed you with something? That's another way to look at it. Because you were so obedient, because you were so God-fearing, because you desired to put others first, he gave you this as a reward. See, there's a couple ways to look at different things. When we yield to God, we think it all comes from his hand, then we can easily roll with what he wants us to do. Where we have trouble rolling is when we go, hold on, let's talk about this. My wife and I were doing our devotions the other night at dinner, and we came across that young fella who said, what do I need to do to be saved? I've done all these things. I've done all these wonderful things. And Jesus says to him, take everything you got and sell it and follow me. And he was sad because he was. You see, he was ready to give everything to God, but this I keep. This is mine, God. You don't get to touch this. And when we try to live our life where we're guarding our treasures and our trinkets, it doesn't work. When we yield to God, then he says, okay, now you can go out and you can tell those that are still struggling what you need to do to get out of this pothole, to get out of this sinkhole. People take your actions and your behavior far more seriously than they take your advice. When they see you doing it, when they see you yielding yourself, they are going to follow you wherever you go. Be honest with you. Most people, they won't follow you. They won't do what you do until they know that you're doing it fully and freely, surrendered to God. And they can tell. They can tell as well. So I want you to walk it, don't just talk it. Yield yourself completely to God. And after you've yielded yourself to God, step 2 is you got to demonstrate what is important. You know, us preachers, it's so easy for us to get up and tell you stuff, isn't it? Here's what you need to do, ladies. Here's what you need to do, men. Here's what you need to do, Donna. Here's what you need to do. And then we walk away, and you have no idea whether we even walk our own talk. Some of you do, because I like to think I'm an open book and people know me. But we've discovered over these last few years, there are high-profile pastors which are not walking what they're talking. So we need to walk what we talk. That's how we demonstrate it. If we don't do it, then what are we? We're hypocrites. I have the privilege of teaching a little Wednesday night Bible class up in Bradford, to which one of my students is here tonight, and we've been doing the chronological life of Christ. And some of you did that when I was on staff here, and we were in the back room. And Jesus, he had compassion on people, right? Shake your heads, yes, yeah. He loved people, didn't he? You shake your heads, yes, yeah. What did he have to do with the Pharisees and the Sadducees and the Herodians? What did he do with them? Did he love them? And no, shake your head, no. Shake your head, no. He hated them. Why? Why? Because they were capital H hypocrites. It says right in the scripture, they would stand on the street corners in their robes, and they would draw attention to themselves. And Jesus said they did it all for show. They'd walk into a fancy, sorry, Douglas, I just realized I'm walking off the center of your recording. Sorry, I should stand like this. Sorry. They would go into these meals, and they would get the prime seat at the table. And everybody would come along and they'd go, oh, Rabbi, Rabbi, so glad you're here. Thank you, thank you. And Jesus says they were full of dead men's bones. They were fakers. They were hypocrites. Well, if we tell somebody, oh yeah, I went through recovery and everything is good, or I'm a Christian and God changed my life, but we're using on the side, or we're beating up our wife on the side, or we're not talking to our children, or we're not talking to our parents, we're hypocrites with those Pharisees. Do you understand that? We have to be forthcoming with everything we do. They pretended to be righteous, but they didn't care at all. We can talk a good game. I am a horrible golfer. Last week I golfed 112 and I didn't play every one of the 18 holes. I know. But you see, I could say I'm a pretty good golfer. I shoot, I could say I play in the low 70s or the high 70s or the low 80s. I could be referring to the temperature in Fahrenheit. and misleading you, you see. But there's a freedom to be found in saying, I can't golf to save my soul. Because I'll get to that. There's a lot to be said for that. But here's a promise I want you to understand, or at least an instruction I want you to understand. If you want someone to see what Christ will do for them, let them see what Christ has already done for you. If you want to let people know what Christ has done for them, let them see what he's done for you. And for that to work, you have to have fully surrendered. And once he sees what he's done for you, once they see it, they're going to go, I want that. That is just a natural law of attraction. You know, this world is messed up because we're attracted to rock stars and movie stars and athletes that could care less about anybody but themselves, who waste their money, who treat people horribly, and we seem to be naturally drawn to them. But if we see somebody truly, honestly, earnestly living a good life, we will be drawn to them. And you could be that them. Sadly, there are those that preach recovery and dependence on Christ, but they fail to practice it. They can recite to you the 12 steps from memory. They can recite to you the serenity prayer from memory. Oh, they got it all down. They look great. They're here every Monday night, but they're not doing it the way they're supposed to. They're picking and choosing what they yield to God. And I'll tell you right now, picking and choosing will lead to failure. Picking and choosing, in another way of saying it, is holding back from God. Picking and choosing is not saying yes to God, but saying no to God. I'm going to play Christian. I'm going to play recovery. I'm not going to truly do it. If that's you, if you're playing Christian or you're playing recovery, stop. Stop doing it. You know who you're fooling? Yourself. You're certainly not fooling God. God who formed you in the womb, who knows how many hairs may be on your head or how many were on your head. For some of my, yes, Frankie, yes, I recognize that head, yes. Here's a question for you. Does your lifestyle reflect what you believe? Does your lifestyle reflect what you believe? Do you have a lifestyle that reflects humility, love, and service to Jesus? Or do you have a lifestyle that portrays selfishness, pride, lust? 1 Timothy 1:5, Paul's great letter to one of his charges, one of his pastors that he was developing. Verse 1:5 says, arouse the love that comes from a pure heart. The love that comes from a pure heart, a clear conscience, and a genuine faith. If you haven't experienced it, I can't even describe the love you can have having a pure heart, a genuine faith. I'll tell you why. I was not always the guy who would be honest. I'm going to give you two personal perspectives tonight. I usually don't give a lot of personal perspectives. I give a lot of jokes and a lot of scenarios that I'm found in, which usually people remember, and they say, oh, I heard you speak 5 years ago, and you're talking about driving a car off a cliff. And, tonight I want to talk about a personal thing. One of them was, I used to be a white liar. I used to be less than honest. I wasn't happy with who I was. Growing up, I didn't like who I was, and I protected myself. I put this big protection around me by lying. And there were white lies. There weren't big lies. They were just, I misrepresented myself. And I was never really happy. And then I had a spiritual experience in my late 20s where God said to me, either stop playing church or jump full in, but you can't do what you've been doing, because I was playing church. And I jumped in. And one of the first things that changed in me was I started telling the truth. And don't get me wrong, not brutal truth like Jonathan, that shirt looks horrible. Like I'm not talking about that truth. I'm talking about truth about yourself, truth about your situation. Saying, I don't know the answer. I don't know where to turn. You understand this way better than me. How do I do that? That takes humility. And a guy who already introduced himself tonight as struggling with pride, it is hard. But I can tell you, having overcome it, I just don't know. I just don't know how I ever lived that way. I wanted to be something. I wanted to be someone I wasn't, and I protected myself. However, I discovered that when you start telling the truth, it is like a 200, 400, 600-pound weight just being lifted right off of you. And all of it, some of you are shaking your heads in the positive because you know what it's like to stop playing church, to stop playing family, to stop playing student, to stop playing the games you've been playing. And suddenly you can say, look, our marriage is in trouble. We need to talk about this instead of just going out and avoiding it. You can fix the things that aren't working right. You know, one of the things that I struggled with when I was in that situation was being found out. And back then we didn't have cell phones or anything, but the phone in the house would ring. My mother or dad would answer it, and they'd say, "Ron, it's for you." My stomach would turn immediately. Uh-oh. Who have I lied to that figured it out that's calling me on it? When you are past that, doesn't matter who you see, wherever you go, nothing. Because nobody can accuse you of stealing or cheating or lying because you've been living a worthy, honorable life. Think for a minute, a life of worry-free, not worrying about getting caught in a lie, not worried about being called on who you are representing yourself to be. You know, I've told you guys so many times, I love Monday nights here at CR. And one of the things I love the most is the testimonies. Anybody else love the testimonies? And like last week, I don't think Lorraine's here tonight, but last week Lorraine shared with us. And wow, I just love that. And I want to say to you guys that if you haven't shared your testimony and you have a testimony, see Jonathan or Janet, they would love to work with you to have you come up and share your testimony. Because for me, it always causes me to reinvigorate my desire to live a good, clean, honest life. Not a perfect life, far from perfect. If Diane, my wife of 41 years, was here, she would tell you, this guy is not perfect. He makes so many mistakes in a day, I've lost track. But she knows that when I tell her something, it's the truth. She knows that when I say I'm going to do something, it's the truth. There's such freedom in that. So if you have a testimony that you can share to encourage us, I want you to do that. But did you realize without ever doing that, you are giving your testimony every single day? Did you know that? You go to work, you go to school, you get up in the morning in the house with your family. You are a living testimony. Well, what do you mean, Ron? I didn't write anything down. I didn't stand up and tell him. You don't need to write it down. People watch you. People see you. People hear you. People know your testimony. By the way, when we get testimonies up here, what kind of testimonies are they? They are basically, I was in a bad place. I had a hurt, or I had an addiction, or I had an affliction. I had something, a hang up, and it messed me up. And then a recovery program that was Christ-centered brought me to a spot where I can stand here today. That's what we almost always see. Your testimony is, I don't know, but I'm going to guess at some of them. I can't trust a word he says. They'll never do that. They never, ever come through. Yeah, I'll never see that $10 again. These are your testimonies. Yeah, diet starts next Monday. Right? These are your testimonies. You don't realize you're a living, walking testimony. You don't have to tell them. And for those that are like Lorraine that have overcome their life, like all the recovery videos we get from down in Florida, those folks, they're still walking around and they're not telling people, but people that saw them in the previous life go, wow, wow. I remember I used to sleep on the street with that guy, and now he's driving for UPS. Look at, he's all successful. You see, he doesn't have to say a word. He just has to go and do his life. So am I making sense? Okay, good. So you can recycle your past pain into power for the future. So you yield to God. You say, God, take everything I got. I'm not holding anything back. You demonstrate your recovery in all that you say and do. People see you. You show people. And the third thing you do is you serve. You serve. Not like a tennis serve. You serve like Jesus served. Jesus served? I thought Jesus just spoke. I thought he just went around talking. Miracle, couple miracles. Talking, miracles. Well, in the class I'm teaching on Wednesday nights, I'm very excited because we're in the final week of Jesus' life. And I'm not excited because it was the final week of his life. I'm excited because there's so much stuff in there. And we haven't got to it yet, but on the night before Jesus was betrayed, we all know this. On the night before he was betrayed, he took the cup, and after giving thanks, he took the bread, and after giving thanks, he broke the bread, and he said, take and eat. This is my body, which I do for you. Do this in remembrance of me. Anybody ever heard that before? And in the same fashion, he took the cup, and he said, this is a testament of the new blood. Do it as often as you eat the bread and drink the cup, right? You've all heard that. But you know what he did before that? He washed their feet. This is not Newmarket with nice shoes. This is dirty old Israel with dirt and gnats and bugs and infections and hangnails and all that stuff. Sorry, the hangnail I didn't need to go to, did I? Sorry, Danielle. Sorry, Danielle was with me right until I got to the hangnail. Then she goes, but Jesus did this. He did this. Sorry, Douglas, I'm out of shot. But he did this. He went, give me your foot. And he washed their feet. I'll tell you, who was supposed to wash their feet that night? Servant. The servant, the host, not Jesus. It was a job for the lowest of people. The lowest of people. Listen to these words from John 13, 14, and 15. And since I, the Lord and teacher, he had the highest standing, have washed your feet, excuse me, you ought to wash others' feet. I have given you an example to follow. Do as I have done to you. He is the rabbi. He is the one everyone is following. He's been 3.5 years teaching. He is about to go to the cross for all of mankind. And one of the last things he does is he humbles himself as a servant and he washes dirty feet. To Ron, that means I got to serve. I have to serve. I can't be a taker. I got to be a giver. So our third step is we have to be a giver. Did you know that serving is a huge part of the Christian life? And did you know that most churches can't even run a full VBS system in the summer anymore because there's not enough volunteers? Jonathan and Janet, if we let them tell you, they'd say, we got great volunteers, but we could always use more. But people don't want to. Oh, I got tennis on Tuesday nights, and I have my coffee group on Thursday night, and I'd love to help you, but Jesus did what he did, and we're comparing it to tennis and coffee. Many of you here already serve, and it's wonderful. Some of you come very early and you rehearse the worship, do the tech team. Marilyn, is Marilyn here tonight? She's here. In my note I said I want to mention Marilyn. She's not here tonight, so good, because I don't want to puff her up and make her think she's better than she is. But Marilyn is here. For 5 years I've been coming to CR. And Marilyn is there to smile at me and to greet me. Marilyn has grandkids and kids and activities, and Marilyn could be doing a whole bunch of other things. But she's here serving Jesus, her Jesus. She's going to hear these words. Maybe you've heard these before. Well done, thou good and faithful servant. But she doesn't serve to hear that. She serves because God says, look what I've done for you. Now go do this for the others. So you need to serve either here or elsewhere. I'm going to give you my second personal example, and I'm going to not ask for extra time. I'm going to take extra time. I hope that's okay. But I struggle with pride. And I was on staff at this church for 15 years. I was a youth pastor. I was an associate pastor. And I used to teach in this room on Wednesday nights. And we'd have 100, 150 people in here sometimes. I used to teach in the West Room where there weren't enough seats. People would not be able to come to my class because we'd have 75 people in there. I've spoken in that sanctuary many, many times to over 1,000 people. Now, I know what you're thinking. Is he ever full of himself? And in a large way, I am. But I'm only telling you this because I want you to know. I retired 2 years ago, but in the summer, I'm going to a different church. I volunteer at that church. I volunteer on Wednesday nights, and I teach a class. I already told you that tonight. How many students do you think I have? 100? 80? 10. Very close, Marissa. 8. And this week there'll be 6, because one's over in Europe and one has a job prep class. 6 people. I know people that would go, I'm not going to teach 6 people. Are you kidding? I used to stand on the big stage at Cedarview. I used to have my picture on both those screens. I had people listening to me and taking notes. I'm not going up to Bradford United Church, 185 years old, sitting down in the basement, having people take 6 people. You see, that is a prideful approach, saying, I'm the rabbi. I want the servant to wash my feet. I am grateful and I trust I understand it because I don't like sharing this kind of stuff, but I think I'm doing what God called me to do and to meet whoever wants to come into that room where they are and teach. And just trust that God will see it through. So, all that to say, if you've been a something and you messed it up, you don't have to go be a something again. You can clean up the dishes after cafe tonight and be serving in the kingdom. You can be, look at Doug, you can be cleaning washrooms in this building and doing more ministry than some of the people that have stood and spoke on that platform. We aren't like the world. We don't measure the value of our ministry by how much vision it gets or how many likes it gets or how many retweets it gets. We're there in season and out of season. A great example is you're a worker and you know the boss won't be in on Friday, but you come in and you do the same job as if the worker had been there. That's what the boss had been there. That's what I'm calling you to do. And I'm the guy that would always go, boss isn't here. I guess we're getting an extra long lunch today. God doesn't want us to do that because you know what else? Your coworkers see you and they go, gee whiz, Frankie's different. Fran's different. They don't walk by our rules. They walk by a different set of rules and look how happy they are. So saying yes to God is carrying this message of recovery to others. I encourage you to do it. I want to leave you with this. I don't know where I ever found it, but I love this quote. We should have a picture of that last slide. There it is. This world is full of 2 kinds of people, givers and takers. The takers eat well, but the givers sleep well. Do you want to be a full stomach or do you want to have a peaceful sleep? You can be a taker or you can be a giver. I want to say to you tonight, to the best that you are able, be a giver. Give God your life, every part of it. Don't hold back the porno magazines. Don't hold back the bottle. Don't hold back the girl that you have a relationship with that you know you shouldn't. Don't hold back any corner. Demonstrate it and serve. And I can tell you, I can make this promise, your life will be better. How do I know that? Scripture backs me up.